Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm Cheri Duckworth, and joining me today is Mrs. Summer Okimoto. She is a doctor of midwifery. Thank you for being with us today, Summer.
Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you on the show. We're going to be talking about health and providing care for women and their families. But just to start off today, there may be people watching today who don't know what it means when I say doctor of midwifery. So let's talk about what is a certified nurse midwife.
Okay. Well, first of all, the word midwife means with women, and there are different types of midwives with different backgrounds of training. And one thing that binds us all together is the common thread of serving women and their families. And multiple individuals take different routes to become a midwife, and it can be quite confusing for the public sometimes. So I will speak to what a certified nurse midwife is. A certified nurse midwife is an individual who has been educated in the discipline of nursing and also in the discipline of midwifery. We all hold a bachelor's of science degree in nursing, and we've gone on to either a certificate program or a graduate program at a master's or doctoral level. We all are accredited through the American Midwifery Certification Board. We have to take a national exam, and then we practice under the standards of midwifery practice that is provided to us by the American College of Nurse Midwives. The majority of certified nurse midwives practice in the hospital setting. However, we do have practices in birth centers, and we also provide birth in clients' homes. So it's a very awesome profession. We take care of women throughout the lifespan. So we will have teenage patients that come in for STD counseling, birth control, and then we also do pap smears, and we do preconception counseling, natural family planning. We also do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for women who are going through menopause, and we even see women past menopause as well. So we do more than just deliver babies, although that is the joy of our profession as well. So it's really just a very special calling to be a part of, to serve women and their families.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me about the calling aspect of it and how midwifery actually has biblical roots.
Well, we first see midwives mentioned in the Old Testament in Exodus chapter 1, verse 15 through 21. And I would like to read that.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shephrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the duties of a midwife for the Hebrew women, and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the male children alive. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and saved the male children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty. And so it was, because the midwives feared God, that he provided households for them. So we see these midwives, Shephrah and Puah. Shephrah means to beautify, to swaddle, and to clothe and clean. And Puah means to be brilliant and splendid, to glitter, but to also coo and to groan and to cry and to soothe the newborn infant. So I really feel like their names are prophetic in them fulfilling the call of midwives. And back in this time, many biblical scholars believed that midwives were barren, that they could not have children.
It's interesting.
And because there was such a high value placed on family, that midwives were basically found to be of service to other families when they were not able to have families of their own. And so because the midwives feared God, because they respected God and they held his word in reverence, and they did not go along with Pharaoh's decree to kill the male infants, God provided them with families of their own.
Oh, wow, that's so beautiful.
It is very
To hear the
beautiful.
roots of midwifery and where it came from, and then too, just to hear how much you actually continue to do, because, I didn't even know that you continue to take care of women even after they've had children, and that, the hormone replacement and all of that we go through, menopause and all the questions that come with that, to know that you can have someone who's going to hold your hand from the beginning, of your womanhood,
Exactly.
all through, and every year after that. So what a wonderful relationship to be able to build with not just your doctor, but with a midwife who has that certain extra something there to offer you as a woman,
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful service. I want to talk a little bit about the practicalities of midwifery a little bit more, because you mentioned some of the things that you all do to help the women in the community. And maybe there's women who are watching today who are expecting their first babies.
Yes.
Or maybe, they've had a few, but this one's a little bit different, and they have questions about self-care. They have questions about making sure that as a woman that they're doing everything they can to be healthy for themselves and for their child. So I want to go ahead and talk to you about some of the practical ways that women can remain healthy during pregnancy. I'm sure that in biblical times it looked a lot different.
Yes, probably so.
But they sure did give us a wonderful and beautiful foundation to go from. So as a midwife, in faith, what do you normally tell women whenever they're first expecting their first child?
Well, first of all, we try and get them before they get pregnant. We try and counsel them. It's called preconception counseling, and so we encourage them to start taking a daily prenatal vitamin. If they have some health issues that need to be a little bit better controlled before they get pregnant, such as diabetes or high blood pressure, we encourage them to take those steps, whether it's getting to a healthy weight so that they can have a successful pregnancy without a lot of the complications that we sometimes see, such as gestational diabetes or gestational hypertension. And also, being at a healthy weight can prevent a woman from experiencing a C-section. So we try and do that preconception counseling at the beginning, but because 50% of pregnancies are unplanned, we don't have that opportunity. So what we do encourage our patients to do is to be consistent with their daily prenatal vitamins, make sure that they're having a healthy diet. You're not eating for two in pregnancy. That is a misunderstanding.
That's a big myth.
Yes,
Talk to us a little bit
it is
about
a big
that.
myth.
Yes.
Yes, so your body only requires about 300 extra calories a day. That's like an apple with some peanut butter, or a yogurt with a handful of almonds. So we are trying to really educate women and their families as to what does the healthy diet look like. And myplate.gov is a website that I also recommend to my patients to go to, where you look at your plate, and half your plate should be your fruits and veggies, and then a quarter of your plate should be your protein. Your protein should be the size of your palm, and then you should have like some grains, like some brown rice or quinoa, and then just sticking with that and eating a healthy diet, but also exercising too. We do recommend that women exercise about 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and that could be like a brisk walk or doing the elliptical or yoga, Pilates, and some women have been working out before they got pregnant, as in running, and so we do encourage them to continue that as long as it's comfortable for them and they can still talk through their exercise.
Yes.
That tells them that they're getting enough oxygen to their baby.
So I love how you start before they're even pregnant with making sure that they're healthy. And it's so funny when you say, make sure you have your protein. Most people are going to picture like a giant steak or like,
Yes.
a rack of ribs.
Yes.
And you're like, no, size of your hand.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those little practical things are so helpful for women when they're preparing their bodies before pregnancy. And then too, during, that they can continue to exercise if they did before. That's always one that comes up is, can I continue to run?
Absolutely, yeah. And swimming's also a great form of exercise because it's non-weight bearing, and we see towards the end of pregnancy, you start feeling a lot of different aches and pains, and sometimes just getting in the water and being buoyant can help. And just for a healthy woman who has a healthy weight, we recommend a 25 to 35 pound weight gain for her entire pregnancy.
That's another big question. How
Yes.
much is too much? How much is enough? How does that affect the child if, let's say, a mother goes over the weight, what are some complications that can happen?
Well, we could see her develop gestational diabetes. We can see her develop gestational hypertension. And then that kind of plays a role into how frequent we have to monitor her during her pregnancy, what type of interventions will be at play if we need to schedule an induction for a medical reason. And then doing that, scheduling an induction when her body may not be ready for labor, that also sets her up for a possibility of having a cesarean section. So it's just kind of, back to the basics, health and wellness before you get pregnant, and then continuing to practice that lifestyle during pregnancy.
How important are pre-birth classes?
So important. I really recommend that women and their partners take a childbirth course, whether it's at the facility where they're going to be delivering, or a birth boot camp, or birthing from within. There's all different types of birth classes that are available. There are some online as well for those who have busy schedules and may find themselves at 1 in the morning wanting to log in and do a bit of a class. They can do that. And also, I really am a big advocate of taking a breastfeeding class as well, because it looks easy, but it's actually a little difficult. And so getting that education beforehand will pay off long term.
Well, the more you know, the less anxious that you're going to be most of the time.
Yes.
So fear and anxiety play a big part of, especially just even if you've had many children, every time you're about to enter into that time of about labor, it starts to come up. What do you say to the hearts of the women and to their partners too, when it comes to speaking to fear and anxiety in labor?
Well, from just a clinical perspective,
Right.
I discuss what stress does to our body and how it increases our cortisol levels, that stress hormone, and it can actually prohibit your body from laboring the way it was naturally designed to labor. The mind is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I take care of patients from all different religious backgrounds or not religious at all. And so I try to meet them where they're comfortable. Yeah. And I do speak to the aspect of faith and surrender, because labor and birth require a huge dose of faith and surrender. And I think of it as a seesaw. So fear and anxiety go up, but when we begin to pray and meditate on the Lord or on positive things in our life, that fear and anxiety go down.
Yeah.
And that takes precedence over any worry, over any fear. And it really is a letting go. And that's part of our role as midwives, is to not just provide autonomy where a woman and her partner feel like they have a say in their care, but to provide an atmosphere of normalcy, but to provide an atmosphere where they feel it's okay to surrender, because there is a force greater than you that is providing these contractions, and just trusting in your body's ability to birth and knowing that it's normal and it's beautiful and it's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, it's how God created us.
Absolutely.
It's such a beautiful thing. I'm so glad that we're ending on that note today, because you've given us great practical tools, and then, this is practical for the believer too, to know that, God has got us during labor. If you have more questions about midwives, you can visit midwife.org. Thank you so much for being with us today, Summer.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for watching us here at Joy in Our Town.